connects muscle to muscle. So for this, I think more about the lateralization of force, how internal forces are being shared and transmitted, and essentially providing a medium force. And this video right here is actually a great example of this. So if we watch this left side of his body right there, that energy that's being transmitted through his stride cycle, we obviously have the ground reaction forces going through the foot and the lower leg and working throughout the body, but there's a degree of rotation and reciprocation that's occurring here as well, independently at the pelvis, and then even broader, from the lower to the upper extremities. So the fascial concepts become very important, even in a sport that is linearly driven, such as sprinting or track and field. But we want to think about this as being our ability to connect the forces that are being experienced. Hamstring force coupling, we don't want to just think about hamstring and glute and hip extension. We also want to think about the force coupling between the hamstrings themselves, all three hamstrings, the hamstrings and the adductors, and then another big one is the hamstring and the calf. And I believe that, and again, this is another one we'll touch on more here in a minute, but with hamstring injuries in track and field, I think that there is a lot of it could be coming from an inability to couple the hamstrings and the calf as the foot is initiating ground contact. Underdeveloped medial lateral hip structures, so very weak in the adductors, very weak in the abductors. If you kind of take those two together, that just is a good descriptor for chronic hip instability. So, quick to lose ranges of motion. This is where we'll see cramping on the abductors when we do some kind of a side bridge. Adductors just having poor mobility, poor contractility. And then the fifth one, and this one is connective tissue injury, means that the stress exceeded the strain capacity. The tissue was loaded beyond its mechanical failure point, or that plastic region. And as a result of that, we have some sort of mechanical damage to the tissue. Mechanical damage to the tissue is going to create an inflammatory response. It's going to disrupt collagen remodeling and regeneration. And then we're going to have alterations to the biochemical environment. We have different processes that are occurring, which then influences the fluid dynamics. And from all this, we have our nociceptive response, or our stimulation of our pain receptors. And all of these different components are going to result in something very simple: a loss of functional contractility, a loss of function in general, pain, inflammation, and then compromised performance. So whether we're looking at acute or chronic injuries, the tissue stress exceeding strain capacity is the reason why we have this. But this is just a glimpse, or a kind of a compilation of some of the different things that I'm doing throughout this return to play process, and in this early window. So we're thinking in that first 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the significance of the injury, we go back to managing localized pain and inflammation and improving isolated contractility. So for these things, on the restorative side, again, you can actually see it right back there. That's my little secret weapon there. Pretty sophisticated technology. That is a Ryobi car buffer that I use for vibration. I'll apply that directly on the area. We'll use that quite a bit. Voodoo floss, another one I just get a ton of value out of. For a hamstring strain, we'll start by wrapping the site itself, and with all voodoo floss applications, we're really looking at like a 3 to 5 minute window. The specifics of the exercise aren't tremendously important. Lunge combinations, hinge combinations, light rudiment plyos. Once we have done it on the injury site itself, that's when I'll start to kind of move up or move down a little bit. So with a case of a hamstring strain, we've wrapped the voodoo floss around the hamstring for a couple weeks. Now let's go ahead and move it down around the calf and really focus in on the proximal aspect of the calf. And then as you can